Hey guys, Deathbringer706 with OnPointTactical Gaming. Today we got some gameplay that's a result of some brainstorming or brain gaming, if that's what you want to call it. We're Level and we're playing together over at my house, trading the controller back and forth here and there. Right now you're watching him play a little bit of Flood Zone, rocking out a sniper kit, showing me how he does it. He's pretty quick. I'm kind of a little bit slower and a little bit more methodical with my sniper rifle, but he's kind of shown me how he does it and his thoughts behind it. And we kind of got to thinking that, maybe this would be a decent add-on to the channel to where we can kind of give you a little bit different points of view on this or that or what we're thinking as we play the game. Him being a little bit more of a expert player, me being a little bit more of a novice player. Knowing that a lot of you guys just picked this game up or got it unwrapped for Christmas, and see what you guys think. Leave us some comments on the page as always at the end of the video. Like the channel, tell us what you think about it. But without further ado, here's the founder of the channel, Mr. LevelUp.
Alright, so as you mentioned, this is Flood Zone on Team Deathmatch. I'm rolling with the M40A5 bolt action, which has the highest damage per second of any of the heavy-hitting bolt actions. The Scout Elite and a couple other ones, I believe, only do like 40-something minimum damage, so they're not even a one-shot-to-kill headshot past, a certain distance. I think it's about 50 or 60 meters. But it does have the lowest muzzle velocity.
That's a nice shot.
And it also has the highest bullet drop ratio at 15 meters per second squared. So you're going to deal with a lot more bullet dropping. You have to lead your targets a bit more. But if you're running with a straight pull bolt, you're going to have a pretty easy time getting shot after shot off. So even if you do miss because of that extra bullet drop, you can zero it a little more accurately, gauge your bullet drop a little bit, and then make that follow-up shot quite a bit quicker. But as a general guideline, I think for the bolt actions in Battlefield 4, don't be afraid to be aggressive with them, because any of the heavy-hitting bolt actions and some of the lighter-hitting bolt actions do 100 damage through 15 meters. So in close quarters, if you're running canted iron sights or something to that effect, you can shoot them in the chest and actually pull off some pretty close-quarter gameplay with them and not really have to worry about it too much. So I just sort of take that mentality that you don't want to rush in head first like an assault rifle, obviously. But if it comes right down to it, you can pull off those engagements and not really have to worry about it too much. You only have the M40 and the Scout Elite unlocked in the bolt actions, but that 338 Recon hits a bit harder than the other ones.
Yeah.
But I think it has some drawbacks in the fact that it has a smaller magazine and it takes a bit longer to actually work the bolt.
Okay. Well, you see here, I mean, you move around quite a bit. A lot of players don't. How much time did you put on a sniper kit before you started moving around like this in your gameplay?
I didn't want to get in the habit of playing slow to start with, so I was running around like I would with an LMG, I guess.
Yeah.
So, you still got to kind of post up every once in a while. But I knew that I didn't want to be a campy bolt action player, so I went in with the mentality like I'm just going to learn to play it this way and force myself to do it. And the CSLR4 is actually a pretty good bolt action to learn that. Has a higher muzzle velocity than the M40, but it does take a bit longer to actually work the bolt and take a follow-up shot. So it's a good learning bolt action. It's not a bad one by any means. I just much prefer the M40.
Cool. That's pretty useful.
Yeah. And I gotta say that this death here actually kind of... I feel bad about it because I barely missed the guy, and it could have been a really good play. There's a whole bunch of them over here.
Yeah.
But this next clip here is ACWR gameplay under my own gamer tag on Operation Locker. I'm running the Cobra red dot sight, the laser sight, the potato grip, and the suppressor. The potato grip gives a 15% accuracy enhancement to your automatic fire, which is really advantageous. But that suppressor on Operation Locker, as you know, to get out of people's line of sight. And, because there's so many people running around kind of in the same area and there's so much chaos, it's easy to get tunnel vision playing Locker, just trying to stay focused and alive. But the use of cover cannot be understated, especially whenever it gets 320'd out from under you. It's kind of hard to think about where you need to move next.
Yeah.
But just be sure that you stay in cover, and you should make it quite a while. You got any extra comments?
Well, yeah, I mean, that suppressor is huge. I mean, that's one thing about it, starting off the game, for all you guys that's unwrapping this thing for Christmas. You've probably played shooter games before, but, that suppressor, until you get that on a lot of these guns, I mean, trying out new guns, doing this, doing that when you start out, I would encourage a guy to just kind of stick with the gun a little bit, get some of the upgrades for it, and see where you go for it. Oh, that was nice. You shot some courage right there.
Yes, sir, I did.
But that's just something. Sticking with the gun for a little bit, giving it an actual chance, is good. That'll kind of cut down on that raging. Something I'm kind of prone to. But you get that done, and you'll be more patient. That'll allow you to take the time to use a little bit more cover.
Yeah, I get the incentive to want to use all the guns in the game. I unlock this. I gotta try a new gun.
Yeah.
Everything. But then you're not dedicating, and then whenever you're looking back on all the guns that you've played, you're like, man, I just don't really like any of these, because you haven't really got to use any of them. Now, obviously, the further down the unlock tree you get, the longer it takes to unlock some of them. So then you're gonna like those, even if they aren't as good, just because you've gotten around to unlocking some.
Well, yeah, and then you wind up going back and going, this, I never really gave that gun a chance. Maybe I should do that, because you're bored and you want to try a new gun because the unlocks start getting farther and farther apart. But there's no reason to just sit there and wait to go back. I mean, you can just kind of dedicate yourself to a gun right off the get-go, and then when you do that, you're going to get the unlocks. You're going to have a better gun to play with, and it should bring your KDR up. Yeah,
and a good way, I think, to determine which guns you're going to like, that you're going to want to dedicate to, is to just check the rate of fire and the magazine size.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about actual firearms, check the bullet size. That's going to give you a good idea on how much damage they're going to do. And if you predetermine that the ACR is going to be a great weapon for you, I love it. But if you look at its rate of fire and think, yeah, it shoots fast, and I kind of like that, but it's an ACR, it's going to have that fast reload time because it's on that platform. That's a good way to go into it. But I would say that unless you have 200 kills with a gun, you don't know how it performs.
Sure. Yeah, but I mean, you're right. I mean, looking at those basics is it. I mean, you're good on that rate of fire. You like that. You're an accurate shooter. You play a lot of TDM. That kind of helps with that. Makes for good gameplay. But me, I'm not as accurate. So for me, magazine size is kind of a big deal. I'm liking the Ace 21 right now. You're packing some extra rounds there. So whenever I suck and miss right off the get-go, it gives me a chance to stick with it before I run that magazine dry.
Yeah, you should actually check the magazine size, because that doesn't only reflect the ammo that you have in the magazine. That's going to result in your ammo pool being larger or smaller as well.
Yeah.
The Scar H, you spawn in with 84 extra rounds.
Yeah.
I think it's just a very small amount of rounds, and it's easy to rip through it because, I mean, if you miss, that's basically a magazine per guy with the Scar.
Well,
but
sure.
The Ace 21, 36 rounds after a wet reload, that's another 5 rounds, and that results in your ammo pool having 144 as opposed to 121 rounds.
Right.
Whenever you spawn.
Yeah, it's a free clip. I mean, basically, it's not, but it is. You gotta look at that Scar H. I mean, maybe, the gameplay, you're sitting there with some of your buddies, you're actually playing the classes, you have a guy that's a support guy, he will drop you ammo, that's gonna help you go ahead and use that Scar H, but, TDM, you don't, when you're playing TDM, it's very rare that you're gonna get the classes divvied up. I mean, you're gonna see a lot of assault, and not so much in the support, in the engineer classes. Snipers, of course, you'll see that on certain maps, but across the board, you're going to see a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. So, what class is your favorite?
It's the assault by far. But I actually enjoy doing what you just did there, actually revving a guy, contributing to the team. I don't use the noob tube. I'm not one of those guys. I think that the choice of med bags and and defibs for a reason. That's what the class was intended to do. You know, and you can make a lot of points with those med bags. I mean, back here at Locker, you know, there's a couple points where you'll see everybody posting up on some of those corners. You know, throwing those med bags down there whenever you get into a big gunfight, where you're seeing some of that 5-on-5 action there on some of those corners. I mean, throwing that med bag down, I mean, it's not uncommon to get a couple hundred points just for throwing down a med bag. You know, instead of running around with an M320, just shooting blindly around stuff. I don't know. That's just my style, though.
Well, the M320, you got to think about it's good for blasting cover to expose a guy, but then again, that means you're also eliminating your own cover.
Yeah.
You now have to move up through what was once cover. Now it's just an open space, and you're most likely going to get drilled straight through it.
Well, and that's exactly right. Whenever you do that, I mean, you're prone to, you know, the one thing about Battlefield 4, there are so many more objects to clamber around and get stuck on, just like you just almost did right there. But, you know, just like you're making it worse blowing some of those buildings down. You know, they do such a good job of levolution and whatever, but I don't know. I mean, what do you think? You know, where I get in trouble on these things with the objects on the ground and this and that is, you know, I find myself still. I get into a gunfight with a guy, right? And, you know, you're not going to stand there and just take it. So I'm strafing backwards, I'm strafing left, I'm strafing right, and boom. That's always when I get hung up on something on the ground. And then it causes me to just stand there and basically get shot. Yeah. So, I mean, what do you do in situations like that? I mean, whenever you engage somebody, I mean, is it map recognition for you? Is it a certain tactic that you're using? Tell me about it.
It's going to change depending on what kind of weapon I'm using, actually.
Okay.
Think about the AEK.
Yeah.
High recoil, high rate of fire, and the ACR is kind of the same idea. You're not going to strafe and be that accurate with it. But it's a high rate of fire gun, so if you can be accurate with it, you can afford to stop and just drill them with 900 rounds a minute.
Yeah.
If they're within a reasonable engagement distance, just stop and be more accurate for a second. If you have one of those high rate of fire guns, but there's a lot of weapons, burst guns being no exception, that you're going to need to take advantage of, kind of strafing around. And I catch myself, I'll strafe sometimes to aim because my sensitivity is so high that I'll jump past them. So I do strafe a lot back and forth, but sometimes I'll get stuck in an engagement and they will start strafing the same direction I do.
Yeah.
You need to change direction. They're expecting you to continue on a linear path across their screen.
Right.
If you stop it or just change direction, that's going to throw them off and then get you an advantage in a firefight in that type of scenario as well. But it's going to change depending on what kind of weapon I'm using.
Okay, something else I want to talk about for Battlefield 4. I mean, this is new. I mean, we got a lot of ups, we got a lot of downs. We just saw you do it twice. Parachute play.
It's handy.
It's almost necessary.
A lot of times, and it's a really good way of dropping down behind guys that are oblivious to what's going on above them, you know.
I mean, this is the thing. If there's so many outs in this game, you know, if you do engage and they got the drop on you, there are so many times in Battlefield 4 where you have the ability to jump out of a window, jump off of this, jump off of that, and pop that chute. For guys that are new to the game, that just unwrapped it again, that is one thing I would try to do a little practicing on. You know, we were talking earlier too, you know, about weapons, sticking with them, and in different times of gameplay. I mean, seeing you're rocking a little bit of burst action right now. Tell us about that.
I like burst weapons. They're never going to be as popular as the automatic weapons because you can just kind of lazy finger it. You can tap fire them, the automatic weapons, if you need the additional accuracy. But automatic weapons are never going to be as accurate as a burst gun in the long run. Now, in Battlefield 4, the burst mechanics changed from Battlefield 3, and they're much better. In Battlefield 3, if you'll remember, the first shot recoil multiplier was still intact, and it was ridiculous. In Battlefield 4, DICE has switched it up. It actually is a last shot recoil multiplier. So the third round in your burst is going to have the most recoil. Which actually is not necessarily a bad thing, because with a burst gun, the first shot's going to be the most accurate one. The following two are going to be slightly less accurate. But if the gun jumps on that third shot,
Yeah.
the likeliness of actually pulling a headshot is going to be exponentially increased.
Yeah. Yeah, and that that's all fine and good, but I would really like to thank Battlefield for changing that for me, because I was actually a pretty good M16A3 player or A4 player, and the way that they've changed the burst action multipliers on this, it's got me completely jacked up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we were talking about sticking with the weapon, and I was trying that out here. I don't know, earlier this week, and yeah, it just caused me to rage and quit.
Oh, the M4, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, it looks like you're having dedication issues.
Yeah.
And maybe practice what you preach. Eh?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean to hate on the game. It just, I've had so many things. I've got ahead of the Christmas rush on one hand, but I did have a problem getting a hold of a PlayStation 4 console, and just got a lot of different things to work on it. Of course, we'd played the PS3 version of it, got it on the launch, but anyway, just trying the Ace 21 out and getting a hold of that gun at the same time. It just, too many things to work on at the same time, and yeah, I was having a little bit more success with the 21, and yeah, I mean, you need to dedicate to guns, but I don't know, there's so many other things that you also got to dedicate to, classes and whatnot, but anyway, I mean, I like the assault class, kind of getting back to that whole thing. What's your favorite class?
Recon.
Okay.
Actually, I play assault a lot. I do like playing the defib gameplay, and the medic bags and everything else is kind of fun. I don't really care for the 320 or the M26 for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the motion grenades and the tugs and all that's really cool. With China Rising, when you got that new UAV unmanned drone, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But actually, people were road killing with it, and they patched that, but you could just run a guy over, and it didn't do any damage to it. So people were just flying around with a little drone killing people, going on 20 kill streaks. But I don't know, I like the bolt actions and the DMRs, even though the DMRs do need to be upgraded a bit in a near future patch. But speaking of getting used to classes and burst mechanics and just general weapon selection, if you're gonna want to be a versatile game player instead of just dedicating to support or whatever else, you want to be good with a carbine, because the ability to use that same weapon all the time cannot be understated.
Yeah.
Being able to just pick up that weapon and more or less be able to play about the same. Obviously, you can't play the same as an engineer as you can a medic, because you don't have the med bags. You got a rocket launcher, so you got to pay a little bit more attention to the vehicles and all that. But, not to say you shouldn't pay attention to vehicles playing medic, because you need to know what's going on. But, I don't know. I really like Recon. I've been getting better at the bolt actions. I actually started a video series just about the bolt actions called the Recon Quest. I don't know if you saw that one.
Yep.
So, that should be fun.
Yeah, that definitely is. And I guess I just play so much TDM. It's certain maps let you get into the recon, but unless you can really quick scope, recon and TDM don't necessarily traditionally have never really gotten along. It looks like there's a lot more opportunity for it in Battlefield 4, but getting into Rush, getting into Conquest, stuff like that. I mean, that's really kind of where I've gotten into my recon play, and just started opening myself up into that. I'm just such a big TDM fan. Sometimes I forget about that. And one thing I need to get into, and we got to start hammer down on, is obliteration.
Yeah, we need to get some obliteration going. But the thing with obliteration is that there's tanks, so there needs to be engineers, but it's hard to dedicate at all to any class on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so unpredictable. It's easy just to choose assault as your go-to class. Throw a 320 on there, you can do some damage to light armor, but that's the route that a lot of players used to take. But you say Team Deathmatch and Recon don't necessarily go together, and that would be true. That's exactly what I'm trying to fix with the Recon Quest, though. Taking the bolt action, just introducing it into scenarios that most players would never think about it.
Sure.
And the canted iron sights are sort of the gateway to pulling that off.
Yeah.
whenever you have an 8-times sight on top and cannon iron sights, you can pretty much just shoot at people anytime that you like. Now you do need to get used to using the iron sights because a lot of weapons in the game you cant the weapon to the left.
Yeah.
To use iron sights on a bolt action, well, bolt's on the right hand side, so it's actually the opposite direction. So now the scope is in the way on the opposite side of the screen than of where you're used to it being. So that's difficult to get used to. But
sure.
I think the Recon class has a lot more potential, and a lot of players aren't unlocking it. Same with support. You can get a crap ton of points just throwing down some ammo boxes.
Yeah. Oh, you can. And the thing about it is, the game's new. Everybody's just going to do what's comfortable to them, and that's exactly what you need to do to start out. It's just as you progress. I mean, trying to stretch yourself as a player. I guess it's just a matter of what kind of player do you want to wind up being by the time the game's over, by the time Battlefield 5 rolls around, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think to kind of send this one on and off to the wind note, we're running out of gameplay quite quickly. Just be comfortable with what you're playing with, but also try to dedicate to new classes and new weapons, I guess would be kind of the moral of the story here. Don't be afraid to try new things, and certainly don't steer away from a certain class just because you don't like its weapons.
Yeah, absolutely, and just dedicate to one new thing at a time. Don't kill yourself and through a new gun, new class, new map, new game mode, and all that stuff, you know. Kind of just mix it in easy.
And that's what I wound up doing. I was like, I gotta be good at everything, so then whenever the game rolled around, I just sucked at everything for a couple of days. I was trying to play way too much as far as weapons, and for YouTube, I was like just blasting through the carbines because everyone else was rolling through the assault rifles.
Sure.
On YouTube, so I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do something different. So I was just playing carbine after carbine after carbine, and I never got past like 100-something kills with any of them.
Yeah.
Until I unlocked all of them, but yeah, don't overwork yourself. But you should probably try to dedicate into new stuff if you're a creature of habit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, guys, hey, that's it for us today. You know, as always, be sure to leave your comments, any suggestions you have for us down at the bottom of the page, and thanks for watching.